You've been there, the silence after the storm, the echoes of "I love you" still ringing in your ears, even though the door just closed behind someone who walked away, and now, there you are, alone with your thoughts, replaying everything, trying to find the one moment where it all went wrong. And the worst thing you can do now, try to get them back. Not just with a phone call or a text. I'm talking about what we do energetically, emotionally, mentally, the way we replay every memory, every photo, every inside joke, hoping somehow they'll feel it and come back. Here's the truth. Every time you idealize someone who walked away from you, you abandon yourself. Let that sink in. This is the part people don't talk about. It's not about being strong. It's not about moving on in a day. It's about not making the mistake of turning pain into a performance one, where your only role is to prove to them they should have stayed. Stop showing up in places hoping you'll accidentally run into them. Stop posting stories hoping they'll notice. Stop pretending you're doing great when your heart is bleeding, thinking that somehow your silence will seduce them back. You are not a character in a movie. This is your real life, and your healing deserves more respect than that. Let me ask you something. If someone held a match to a house and watched it burn down, would you ask them to rebuild it with you? Would you hand them the blueprints again? No, but we do it with our hearts. We give the blueprint of our soul back to the person who mishandled it. And that, right there, is the biggest mistake. The worst thing you can do after a breakup is make it about them. What they're thinking, what they're doing, who they're seeing, if they're missing you, because the second you make it about them, you stop moving, you stop growing, you stop healing. The people who truly heal, they don't do it because they get over someone. They do it because they turn inward. They realize that closure doesn't come from a conversation, it comes from a decision. A decision to reclaim your power. You love deeply. That's not a weakness. That's a superpower. You showed up. You gave. You felt, you dreamed, you tried. That's who you are. That's the part to protect, not the person who left. So here's what I want you to do. Not tomorrow, not next week, now. Stop checking their socials. Stop stalking their new life. Stop waiting for a message that may never come. Stop imagining a version of them that never really existed, and instead, start showing up for yourself. Start giving the love you gave to them to you. Start building a life so rich, so fulfilling, so authentic, that anyone who left wouldn't even recognize the version of you that rises from this, because that's what breakups are. They're not the end. They're the invitation to reinvent, to rediscover, to reconnect with the version of you that forgot how powerful they were when they were trying to be loved. You want revenge, live well. You want closure. Close the door, not with bitterness, with certainty. Certainty that you don't need someone who needs to lose you to value you. So please stop doing the worst thing you can do after a breakup. Don't go chasing someone who let you go. Start chasing the version of yourself that was waiting for you all along. If you'd like, I can also break this speech down into timed segments with emojis, create SEO descriptions, hashtags, and video tags, write a YouTube thumbnail hook, or short-form captions, or generate image/video prompts based on this speech. The moment someone walks out of your life, the most dangerous thing you can do is start chasing them, not just physically, but emotionally. You might not send the late-night text. You might not show up at their favorite coffee shop hoping to bump into them. But what you do in your mind is far more powerful than any of that. You sit there replaying conversations. You scan their social media like a detective, looking for hidden meanings in a caption, a song lyric, or the name of the person they tagged. What you're doing is emotional chasing. You're handing them power every single day, even though they're no longer in your life. You're living your life on pause, hoping they'll press play again. But here's the hard truth. If someone walked away from you, it means they already made a decision. And I know sometimes that decision wasn't a clean break. Maybe they left the door slightly open. Maybe they said, "I just need space." Maybe they didn't give you clarity at all, and now you're haunted by a million unanswered questions. That uncertainty, it's a trap. It keeps you stuck in a cycle of waiting, and the longer you wait, the more you delay your healing. The more you chase, the more you bleed in places where there's no one there to notice the wound. Chasing someone after a breakup is like walking backward through life. You're so busy watching them leave, hoping they'll turn around, that you miss every opportunity in front of you to build something better, not just with someone new, but within yourself. And let's be honest, chasing them won't change their mind. It might feed their ego. It might validate their choice to walk away. It might make them feel wanted, but it won't make them love you again. Because love, real love, doesn't bloom out of guilt, pity, or pressure. It can't be manipulated or re-earned through desperation. There's a voice inside you that says, if I just show them how much I care, maybe they'll remember how good we were. But love isn't about proving. Love is about showing up fully, and someone who values you doesn't need a campaign to remind them what you're worth. The minute you start chasing is the minute you stop leading your own life. You hand over the driver's seat to someone who's already left the car. And I know it hurts. It hurts to think that someone could walk away from everything you shared and not look back. But here's the shift that changes everything. It's not about whether they look back. It's about whether you choose to keep facing forward. You don't need to chase someone to be loved. You don't need to prove your value to the one who left. You're not meant to beg someone to see your worth. You're meant to be with someone who never stops seeing it. And I want to be really clear about something. Chasing doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. When we love deeply, we fight. When we've invested our time, our emotions, our future into someone, it's natural to want to hold on. But you have to ask yourself, are you holding on to them, or are you holding on to the idea of them? Because the version of them you're chasing may not even exist anymore. The version you miss might be from the best chapter, not the last one. And it's easy to confuse missing someone with needing them back. But missing is just a feeling. It doesn't mean that person belongs in your future. So here's what I want you to do. Catch yourself in the moments when you start chasing, not just physically, but mentally. When you check their page, when you write a text and delete it, when you fantasize about running into them somewhere and them realizing they still love you, when you tell yourself, maybe if I do this, they'll come back. Catch that moment. And then remind yourself, this is the moment I choose me instead. Because you deserve more than a love that needs to be chased. You deserve someone who stays. Someone who chooses you without needing to lose you first. And most of all, you deserve your own energy back. No more chasing. Let them go. Let them leave. And while they're out there figuring out what they lost, you'll be busy becoming someone even they wouldn't recognize, not because you're trying to get them back, but because you finally remembered who you are. It's a strange thing that happens after a breakup. Suddenly, the same person who made you cry, who stopped choosing you, who said they weren't ready or needed space, becomes the hero of the love story in your mind. You stop seeing the pain and start highlighting the poetry. You forget the nights you felt alone with them and instead replay the nights that felt magical. This is what idealizing does. You take the broken fragments of the relationship, shine a light on only the best parts, and then tell yourself that what you lost was perfect. But here's the dangerous part. Every time you do that, you abandon yourself. Because you're not just remembering them, you're editing the memory in a way that serves their image, not your truth. You forget how hard you worked to keep their attention. You forget how often you questioned where you stood. You forget how long you waited for things to feel safe, and instead, you remember the way they held your hand that one night under the stars. That one night doesn't erase the 100 times you felt unseen. We do this because the mind doesn't like uncertainty. It would rather romanticize what we lost than face the terrifying reality that someone we loved didn't love us the way we needed. It's easier to tell ourselves we lost something amazing because then it doesn't reflect on us. It doesn't make us question why it ended. It just makes it a tragic love story, but your healing doesn't live in fantasy. It lives in truth, and the truth is they weren't perfect. The relationship wasn't perfect. And somewhere along the way, you had to shrink parts of yourself to keep the peace. You had to smile when you were confused. You had to be patient when your needs weren't being met. You had to silence your voice to keep the connection going. That's not love, that's survival. And it's time to stop surviving memories that no longer serve you. Idealizing someone after they hurt you is like painting over cracks in a wall and calling it a masterpiece. You're not honoring what was, you're dishonoring what is. The version of you that's trying to heal is competing with a version of them that never fully existed. And the longer you do that, the longer you keep yourself stuck in a cycle of emotional self-abandonment. Because here's what happens every time you idealize them. You make yourself the problem. You start thinking, maybe I was too sensitive. Maybe I expected too much. Maybe I should have just been more patient. No. You weren't too much, you were just too much for them. You didn't ask for too much, you asked for the wrong person to meet your needs. And by pretending they were better than they were, you're not giving your pain the respect it deserves. You're telling yourself a story where they were amazing and you somehow messed it up. That story feels safer, sure, but it's a lie, and every time you repeat it, you chip away at your self-worth. The truth is, someone can have beautiful moments with you and still not be right for you. Someone can love you in their way and still not love you the way you need. Someone can hold you one day and emotionally ghost you the next, and that inconsistency isn't romantic, it's destabilizing. You don't need to hate them, you don't need to villainize them, but you do need to stop putting them on a pedestal they never earned. They were human, flawed, inconsistent, confused, just like the rest of us. So instead of idealizing the version of them you wanted, start honoring the version of you that stayed, that gave, that loved even when it wasn't reciprocated the way you deserved. Because that's the version of you that matters now. Not the version who waited, not the version who fantasized, not the version who bent to make it work, but the version who finally said, no more illusions, no more fantasy, I choose me. You don't need a perfect partner, you need a real one. And you can't meet them until you stop grieving someone you never truly had. It's time to stop abandoning yourself for the sake of a memory. You are not here to make someone else look like the one that got away. You're here to become the one who finally walked away from a story that no longer honored your truth. Let's talk about what most people won't admit after a breakup. You're hurting, you're lost, you're confused. But instead of allowing yourself to truly feel all of that, you turn your pain into something else, a performance. You start editing your life, carefully curating what people see. You want to look happy, strong, unfazed. You want to look like you've already moved on. You want them to see you and think, wow, look at what I lost. It's natural, it's human. When we lose something, especially when we didn't want to, the instinct is to win. To look good, to prove they made a mistake. We want to appear desirable, attractive, untouchable. So we start healing with a camera pointed at us. We start posting photos that scream confidence. We post the quote that implies growth. We put on the mask that says, I'm fine without you. But you know the truth, the silence at night, the heaviness in your chest, the moment you stop scrolling and feel like the whole world moved on without you. That's what's real, that's what you're not showing, and more importantly, that's what you're not letting yourself fully feel because you're too busy trying to win the breakup. Here's the problem. When you treat your pain like a performance, you don't give yourself space to heal, you give yourself pressure to impress. And healing and impressing don't live in the same space. You post the beach photo, you write the glow up caption, you laugh a little too loud around mutual friends, but deep down you're not doing it for you, you're doing it for them, you're hoping it gets back to them. You're hoping they see it, that they second-guess their decision. That maybe, just maybe, they'll feel the sting of regret. But here's what I want you to hear. If you need someone else's attention to validate your worth, you're still giving them the power. You're still making them the main character in your story even after they've exited the script. You think you're moving on, but you're not. You're still tethered to them by the emotional thread of "look at me now." That thread is invisible, but it's heavy. It's what's keeping you from truly stepping into your next chapter, and I get it, you want to be okay, you want to feel strong, but strength isn't pretending you don't care. Strength is being brave enough to admit when you do. It's not in the show, it's in the stillness, the quiet moments when you cry, when you reflect, when you grow. The moments no one sees, that's where the healing happens. There's a version of you that wants to be chosen so badly, you're still performing for someone who isn't even watching. But real love doesn't arrive because you look good without them. Real love arrives when you stop needing to be seen by someone who couldn't truly see you the first time. You don't owe anyone your highlight reel right now. You don't have to win this breakup. There is no scoreboard. There is only you and the path you choose from here. So take off the costume. Let the mask drop. Let yourself be real. If you're sad, be sad. If you're angry, let yourself feel that anger. If you're confused, say it out loud. You don't need to be polished. You need to be honest, because healing isn't glamorous. It's messy. It's awkward. It's inconsistent. And most of all, it's yours. Let the world think whatever it wants. Let them guess. Let them wonder. You don't need to show the world how well you're doing. You just need to keep doing the inner work, the kind no one sees, but everyone eventually feels. And you know what happens when you stop performing. You start reconnecting with yourself. You realize your value was never in how attractive you looked after they left, it was in how you showed up for yourself while you were hurting. That kind of confidence isn't loud, it's quiet. It doesn't seek validation, it radiates from a place of truth. So stop trying to look like you're healing. Start actually healing. That's the kind of strength that doesn't need to be posted because it's felt deeply, authentically, and without anyone else's approval. That's when you know you're free. You keep thinking about them, don't you? What they're doing, who they're with, whether they're missing you, if they're secretly checking your stories, if they'll ever reach out again, if they regret it, and without realizing it, every day, every hour even becomes a guessing game. A mental obsession. You wake up thinking about them. You go to sleep running fake conversations through your head. You're replaying moments, decoding silence, and trying to read into everything they're not saying. And here's the truth no one wants to say out loud. You're making your healing about them. You're waiting for them to come to their senses. You're hoping they realize your value. You're needing them to validate that what you had was real. But the longer you keep the spotlight on them, the longer you stay in the shadow of your own growth. You don't move forward by waiting for someone to come back. You move forward by walking away, not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, energetically. You don't need their remorse to give your pain permission to exist. You don't need their clarity to make a decision about your future. You don't need them to say you mattered for it to be true. The most painful trap after a breakup is believing that your peace lies in their hands, that they are the key to you feeling whole again. But if you're waiting for them to fix the wound they created, you've already given them too much power. This chapter of your life, it's not about what they're doing. It's about what you are doing with what they left behind. Every time you check in on them emotionally, digitally, spiritually, you're stepping out of your lane and into theirs. You're making their journey more important than your own. But your job right now isn't to monitor someone else's process. Your job is to return home to yourself. And let's be honest, even if they came back right now with the perfect words, "I'm sorry, I made a mistake, I miss you, I want you back," would that truly erase the hurt? Or would it just soothe your ego? Because often what we crave isn't the person, it's the feeling of being wanted again. But let me ask you this. Do you want to be wanted by someone who had to lose you first to realize your value? Do you want to be chosen by someone who only sees your worth when you're no longer available? You deserve more than that. You deserve to be loved in real time, chosen in real time, appreciated without needing to lose anything first. And that begins by turning the focus inward, by waking up and asking, how do I feel today? Instead of, I wonder if they're thinking of me. By measuring your progress based on your growth, not on their silence. There's a version of you that's still trying to earn love that's no longer available, and in doing so, you're abandoning the love that is available, your own. So please, stop checking their feed, stop asking friends if they've mentioned you. Stop imagining the day they'll show up at your door with regret in their eyes and your name on their lips. That fantasy is a distraction. It keeps you emotionally tethered to someone who has already let go. This isn't about bitterness. It's not about pretending they never mattered. It's about refusing to keep bleeding from the same wound because you're still hoping they'll come back with a bandage. Your peace doesn't need to be approved by them. Your value doesn't need to be acknowledged by them. And your next chapter doesn't require their participation. You are not the supporting character in their story. You're the lead in your own. And the moment you stop making it about them truly, deeply, is the moment you begin to take your life back. The silence you're afraid of, that's where your healing is waiting. The space you keep trying to fill with their memory. That's room for something new, the love you keep trying to send outward. That's the love that needs to come back inward now. You don't need closure. You don't need revenge. You don't even need them to understand. You just need to decide today, right now, that this is your story again, and you're ready to stop waiting for someone else to write the ending. We all crave it, that one last conversation. That one final moment where everything gets said, where all the confusion gets cleared, and they look you in the eye and finally explain it all. Why they stopped trying, why they pulled away, why they said they loved you, but left anyway. And more than anything, you want them to say the words, you mattered, you were enough, I just wasn't ready. It would be so easy to move on if they just gave you that, just a little closure, just a little honesty, just a moment of clarity. But here's the hard truth. Closure is rarely something you get from another person. It's something you give yourself. Because even if you had that perfect conversation, even if they poured out every reason, every regret, every truth, would it really take the pain away? Would it really change the fact that they didn't choose you? Would it really undo the nights you felt ignored, or the mornings you woke up questioning where you stood? We think we want answers, but what we're really looking for is peace. And peace doesn't come from someone else's explanation. It comes from your decision to no longer need one. It's human to want understanding. It's normal to seek meaning, but waiting for someone else to give it to you. That's where we keep ourselves stuck. You wait for the text. You wait for the apology. You wait for them to wake up one day filled with regret, running to you with open arms and open eyes. But while you're waiting, your life is on hold. And they're not thinking about your closure. They're living their next chapter. That's not meant to hurt you, it's meant to free you. Because the moment you stop needing closure from them, you take your power back. Closure doesn't come from them saying, you were special. It comes from you deciding, I was special, whether they saw it or not. Closure doesn't come from understanding why they stopped trying. It comes from realizing you deserve someone who doesn't stop trying. Closure doesn't come from begging someone to stay just long enough to explain. It comes from knowing that the right person wouldn't have left without a fight. There's a version of you that keeps thinking, maybe if I had said this, maybe if I had done that, maybe then it would have worked. But relationships don't fall apart over one moment. They unravel over time. And if someone chose to walk away, that choice says something not about your worth, but about their readiness, their clarity, or their emotional capacity. You are not responsible for their timing. You are not responsible for their growth curve. You are not responsible for the lessons they still haven't learned, and you don't need their words to heal what they broke. Because the truth is, if they could give you the kind of closure you're craving, they would have already given it. So stop waiting for that moment. Stop rehearsing what you'll say if they come back. Stop writing texts you'll never send. Instead, start creating your own closure, and that begins with one simple, powerful decision. It's over, and I'm still enough. That decision is the real turning point. It's not loud. It doesn't come with fireworks. It's quiet, it's internal, and it's deeply liberating. You wake up one day and you stop asking questions that have no answers. You stop replaying the highlight reel. You stop expecting them to come and fix the damage. You realize that healing isn't about what they do. It's about what you choose to no longer carry. No one gets to define the worth of your love by how they handled it. You get to define it by how you move forward from here. And that's the kind of closure that lasts, not the one written in a text, not the one whispered through tears, but the one you choose alone in the stillness of your own heart. I deserved better, and now I'm choosing it. You gave them so much. Your time, your attention, your vulnerability. You stayed up late for them. You made space in your life. You remembered their favorite things, adjusted your energy when they were off, and kept showing up even when they didn't always do the same. And now there's this big, aching question in your heart. What do I do with all this love? It's a powerful thing, love, especially the kind you give when it's real, when it's not performative, when it's not earned or traded, but just offered freely. You didn't love halfway, you didn't hold back, you gave from the deepest parts of yourself, and even though it didn't end the way you wanted, it doesn't mean that love was wasted. It just means it's time to bring it back home. The mistake most people make after a breakup is thinking that the love they gave is now floating in limbo like it's useless because it wasn't received the way they hoped. But that love doesn't disappear. It's still energy, it's still powerful, and now it needs a new direction. You don't stop loving by cutting it off. You stop hurting by redirecting that love toward yourself, because you know what? You were willing to show up even when it was scary. You were brave enough to hope, even when it was uncertain. You gave someone your heart not recklessly, but honestly. That version of you deserves love now more than ever. Not punishment, not blame. Not constant analysis of what you could have done differently. Love, you gave them patience, now give yourself some too. You gave them grace when they weren't perfect, now give yourself that same grace. You forgave them when they fell short, now it's time to forgive yourself for holding on longer than you should have. Every text you sent, every effort you made, every compromise you agreed to came from a place of love. And even though it didn't result in the relationship you imagined, it doesn't mean it was wrong to love. What would happen if you treated yourself with the same devotion you showed them? If you woke up and asked yourself, what do I need today? If you spoke to yourself gently on the days you feel broken, if you stood in the mirror and saw someone worth fighting for even if no one else is standing beside you, that's the shift that changes everything. You don't heal by hating yourself for loving someone. You heal by loving yourself enough to know when it's time to stop giving to a place that can't receive it. There's a version of you waiting patiently under the rubble, the you before all the second, guessing, the overthinking, the anxiety, the silence, the confusion. The you who laughed without wondering if you were too much. The you who didn't edit herself to be more understandable. She's still in there, and she doesn't need saving. She needs your love now. The love you were pouring into someone else's cup, turn it around. Pour it into your mornings, pour it into your passion, pour it into your friendships, pour it into your body, pour it into your future. You don't have to harden to heal. You don't have to shut down your heart to protect it. You just have to learn how to direct your love to where it's valued first with you. The next time you feel that ache, that longing to send a message, to revisit old memories, to wonder if they've moved on, stop. And ask yourself, what am I really craving right now? Is it their presence or my own? Because so often we think we miss them, but what we're really missing is the version of us we abandoned trying to love them. Bring that version back, choose her, protect her, speak gently to her. The right person will meet you there one day, but only after you've built a life so full of your own love, you're not waiting for anyone else to fill you. That's the love you've been waiting for all along, and it was never out there. It's been within you this whole time.